Welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Phil Arno. During your day, if you live a normal life on this good green earth, you've got a lot to think about, a lot to do, each and every day. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you do some chores, you eat dinner, you watch WBBZ-TV for great entertainment. You get the picture, right? Throw in a few extras and there's little time for much else. So the last thing you want to do is think about some of the more unpleasant things in life. Traffic tickets, paying your taxes, going to court for any number of reasons. But like it or not, this life is all about the things that we like to do and the things that we'd like not to do. You never plan to have an accident, for instance. You're lucky if you don't have to end up in court, that is, unless you're a lawyer. And if you do end up in a courtroom, well, thank goodness that there are lawyers around who can guide you through the process. That can be on your side. And if you're lucky, very, very lucky, you'll find a lawyer that will fight for you like he has you as part of his family. Believe me, I've had lawyers that all they've been good at is explaining to me how I can lose. That's not really a good lawyer. Good lawyers spend their time understanding what you need, explaining the working conditions of the court and how you can be successful. One such lawyer that I know and trust is Jed Dietrich. Now, this is not a commercial for Jed Dietrich, and we're just going to have a conversation here. It's about the court system and how the coronavirus has kind of affected things and what to expect if maybe, God forbid, you're going to find yourself in a courtroom. And now I'd like to welcome to the show Jed Dietrich. And Jed, your law practice has kind of, I think, come to a kind of a slow period because of coronavirus. Explain to me exactly how the court system has been affected with what we've been going through for the last couple of months.
Phil, thanks for having me. I appreciate your support. As you know, I'm a big fan of your station and my good friend John DeShulo, who's in the background there. So I appreciate you welcoming to your media station. As I like to say, it's a great day to be a Buffalonian. Under the circumstances, we have to do what's necessary to be safe. And the court system has, in turn, started a situation which allows us to function, but in a socially distant manner. So the court system currently is open. It never closed completely, which is important because under these emergency circumstances, it's important to note that the rule of law continues to be maintained. And the Constitution is even more important at this point in time than any other point in time because there are drastic things happening in society. So what we like to say in the court world is we're here, we're open for business, but we're doing it in a safe and efficient, effective manner such that justice can be doled out and preserved. So with regard to that specifically, for a period of approximately 1 month, the courts were only handling emergent or emergency matters, and those were primarily criminal matters and primarily domestic violence and abuse type matters. The civil matters that I primarily handle, as you know, I handle serious personal injury cases, automobile collisions, slip and falls, and I handle the Zantac mass tort cases, which are very apparent now. Anyone who's taken the Zantac either over the counter or through a prescription who's had cancer should call 839-3939. Having said that, with regard to the court system, our Chief Justice in New York State has done an excellent job of issuing information saying what takes precedence, what takes a priority. And as I mentioned, the criminal matters where people are either incarcerated or are going to be incarcerated take precedence. And then the domestic violence matters where there's danger in a homestead. So the first month or so, those were the only matters that were primarily being taken care of. About 2 weeks ago, let's say 6 weeks into this pandemic, the courts were opened to handle matters that were already in the court system. So if I had a case where someone had a car accident or slip and fall and we sued that case, let's say a couple of months ago, we could pursue that matter, and we engage with the defense attorney through the discovery process where we exchange the medical records and they ask for information from us as to how the collision occurred, and then we engage in depositions. And I know, Phil, you're very familiar with how that works. I know you've been a part of cases in the past, so you know that the attorney and I prepare my clients specifically, and we do that through either a Zoom call or Google Duo or FaceTime. So we really try to maintain that personal connection with our clients. And I have Zoom calls once a day with my staff, and we try to say, look, we want that personal connection. So we could send an email, but instead of sending an email, I say, let's try to do a Zoom call or a FaceTime call. If the person is not computer savvy, we pick up the phone and call them, because people are out there and they're concerned in our society. And this hasn't been easy, not having the social interactions. Humans are social creatures by nature. And what we try to do in our firm is keep that connection. I always tell my clients and my staff, we treat others the way we want to be treated. So I tell my staff frequently, how would you feel if you were Jane Doe who got rear-ended at Maple and North Forest and you didn't have your wages coming in? So the business of law has been going on the whole time. So my clients have been out of work. They've needed their wages. So we end up getting the disability note from the doctor and then getting that to the no-fault insurance company to get the wages going. So from a practical standpoint, it's been a challenge, but my staff has done a nice job and the court system has done a very nice job. So now, about a week and a half ago, the courts have now become open to file new lawsuits. And that has been busy down at the courthouse. So we're anticipating a little bit of a lag here. We're anticipating pent-up demand. Having said that, I think everyone is rising to the challenge. And my interactions with a number of the New York State Supreme Court judges and their clerks has been very positive in terms of them wanting to start again and get moving.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if it was going to cause much of a backup because of the circumstances. Going forward, because it is going to be kind of a rush to make up for lost time, are there going to be certain priorities assigned to different kinds of cases?
Yes, definitely. It's the standard priority, and we look similarly to the federal court system, like criminal cases in the federal court system and even the state court system have a precedence over the civil cases. A civil case where the plaintiff is older than 70 years old takes a precedence over a case where the plaintiff is 50 years old, because again, there's a precedent to get into a quicker time getting into court for folks that are older or under a criminal scenario. Our main concern from the personal injury bar, what I do is represent people who are injured in an accident. Our main concern is getting back into court and doing those trials. And we only want to do that if we can do it under a safe circumstance. So as they're saying now, getting back to college or getting back to high school, my son is going to be a senior at Canisius High School. I know your kids went to Canisius High School. We just got something from Father Ciancimino saying that when they come back, everyone in the building will be wearing a face mask and they will be practicing social distancing. So we are doing that very thing and anticipating that in my law office. Our door is locked and it's been locked, and we have not been open for business with people coming into the building. We've been absolutely open for business by phone and FaceTime. But we follow the CDC guidelines and we follow the rule of law issued by Governor Cuomo, which is very strict with regard to essential versus non-essential businesses. No question about it. My business dealing with the medicine and dealing with the lost wages, which is financial, is essential with regard to our clients with concerning those issues. Having said that, I have been in the office, but I've had very limited staff. I've got about 19 people working with me right now, and about 17 are out of the office. I'm here, and then I have a bookkeeper helping me with some checks and things like that primarily. But we're all looking forward to trying to get back into the swing of things, but under the social distancing concept. I'm lucky because I've got my University of Pennsylvania tie on here, and I've got two daughters that go to the University of Pennsylvania. My first daughter graduated from Boston College, and she's going to follow in my footsteps and the footsteps of my wife, Colleen, who's also an attorney, and she's going to go to the University of Pennsylvania Law School, and she's concerned about in-person classes. And my second daughter just finished her first year at the University of Pennsylvania. So both of my kids are very concerned about getting in to be in person because it's a different feel for that. And that's analogous. It's the same thing as getting into court for a trial, Phil. The concern in my business is that the insurance companies, they really need to have that gun up against their head, namely having a trial or being on the courthouse steps to have them look very seriously at the bigger cases. And if these are smaller cases, $50,000 policy or $25,000 policy, or even $100,000 policy, usually those cases get resolved. And again, Phil, I know you're familiar with that. You know how it works. So to do the best job we can for our clients, we prepare that case, every case, as if it's going to go all the way to trial. And I tell my clients that. And then when the insurance company knows that we're serious, then the proper offers, in my experience, can be made. So under the circumstances now, we're not open for business for actually having trials right now. We're hoping that takes place, hopefully in the fall, late summer to fall, with social distancing.
Okay, how is that going to affect the way a trial is conducted if it's going to have to go by different rules in terms of how people can approach each other and how many people can be in a courtroom? Is that going to change the dynamic in a trial?
Well, I think the base dynamic of 6 people in a jury box hearing a car accident case with 2 alternates will not change. Those 6 people and the 2 alternates will be in the courtroom. They may be spread out, and there may not be as much room in the gallery for regular witnesses. Perhaps the gallery could be serviced by a video feed in terms of a camera and a microphone, so that could be, the trial could be perceived in that way. It hasn't been worked out. I keep track of what's going on, not only in New York State and the other states of our country, but in what's going on in England and in Sweden, because they're having the same concerns. They're a little further ahead of us in Italy, obviously, Spain, and their main concern is these criminal cases where someone might be incarcerated or they need to be brought to justice. And the criminal cases have precedence over the civil cases. So we're still trying to work it out, but keeping in mind, we're trying to keep every potential juror safe and minimize exposure. And then the same thing with the court clerks and all the personnel that work in the courts. We have a great group of folks that work in the courts in New York State, and a great group of judges in our area in the 8th Judicial District, which is part of the 4th Appellate Division in our part of Western New York. And the judges that I've talked to are anxious to get back to as normal of a situation as possible, but keeping in mind that safety reigns supreme.
Well, you mentioned briefly that there is going to be kind of a rush to make up for the standstill, and it's going to cause a little bit of a backup. Before the coronavirus situation started, what was an average case in terms of time?
That's a great question.
To end? And now, sure, going forward, will that change typically in the near future?
Sure, no question. I think it's going to get extended. In my office, typically a case is resolved within 12 to 18 months after the injury. And people say, is that because you're busy, Jed? Is that because your lawyers are busy? It's not because we're busy. It's because typically a person who's injured in a car accident, a rear end collision, or a slip and fall because of a railing that might have let go when you put your hand out and you fall down, typically those cases are delayed or they take a period of time for the person to recover from the injury. And again, by definition, serious personal injury, okay, let's say broken bones and a surgery. It might take a couple of months to do physical therapy, or maybe even 6 months. Everyone tries to put off surgery. Surgery is a last resort. It's risky. So you do physical therapy. If that doesn't work, maybe after 6 months, then you have surgery. Then you do a period of physical rehabilitation after the surgery, maybe another 3 or 6 months. And then what we do is we order the records as the case goes along, and we prepare what's known as a settlement package. We send it to the insurance company, and we attempt to resolve these cases. If the case can't get resolved, and frequently our average is around 18 months, 12 to 18 months, then we may sue the case. The cases that get sued are the ones with the larger insurance coverage typically, because the stakes are higher and the insurance company is more obstreperous or difficult to deal with, typically in the bigger policies where the stakes are higher. So in general, that was the lay of the land before COVID-19. Now, all of the cases that were scheduled for trial from March of 2020 through approximately July or August of 2020 have been put on hold. So now we do have a backlog there. The judges in our area are quite good in terms of scheduling multiple trials in the same day. That may sound like it's not efficient, but it's efficient, because what happens is frequently if you have a trial date, the case will settle shortly before the trial. That's kind of the lay of the land in the legal business. So my effort on behalf of my clients now is to maintain those trial dates that we had in March, April, May, June. Because what I do with my staff is when we identify a case, it's a serious case, and there's significant insurance coverage, we don't think it's going to settle along the way. We sue the case, and then we ask a judge to become involved, and we get what's known as a scheduling order. So the judge then says, okay, the depositions have to be done within a certain period of when the answer was provided. And after the depositions, the person has to go to a medical examination requested by the defense. And then after that, you make motions. And after that, we talk about telling the court we're ready to try the case, and then getting a trial date. So prior to COVID, it typically took about 6 to 12 months to get through the court system if the case didn't settle. And then we would get a trial date, which would be anywhere between 6 and maybe 12 months after that. So I'm anticipating a delay. However, if we can get going toward the end of the summer or early fall, all those cases that were supposed to take place in the spring and summer of this year can get going, and then we'll be delayed maybe by hopefully like 6 months is what I would anticipate optimistically under the circumstances, Phil.
Okay, well, you know what? We're out of time for this segment. We'll be right back after this. My discussion with Jed Dietrich, very interesting. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.